Hey guys, and welcome to the Indie Game Culture Podcast, an indie game culture podcast. That's why we called it that. We are here today with Malika, we are here with JT, I am Cal, and today we're going to be talking about indie games, as you might have guessed. We've been away for a little bit of time. It's largely down to Malika, it's her fault. She's been away.
Yeah, I've been in Canada for 3 weeks, so I didn't have access to a computer, but I'm excited to talk indie games again.
Do you want to regale us with any of your stories of holidays?
Sure. I went to a waterfall, but I didn't jump into the waterfall because I figured that would be dangerous. It was tempting though. It looked because all the bubbles were like frothing up like a hot tub or something. It's like, I'll bet it's real cozy in there for like the split second before you die to the rocks.
No, I'm guessing that wasn't
Yeah, that
Niagara
could be a little,
Falls.
could be a little unpleasant.
And I got to see old Quebec, which Quebec has such amazing architecture. Like, I never realized how boring the buildings were in most of England until I saw Quebec. Like, even they're just like regular houses and flats and stuff. They're like got like stone and wood, whereas ours is just brick everywhere. And it was just really interesting to see. I loved it. And they have this dessert thing called beaver tails, which are kind of like elongated donuts with toppings on, and they were really good. I really liked those.
That sounds like a fun trip. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, and there was this mall, and there was a theme park inside the mall, like a small theme park, but like a full-on like roller coaster, like drop tower thing, just carousels inside the mall. Like it was the most crazy thing I'd ever seen. It was like, how is it all fitting inside a building with shops on the outside? It was so surreal.
Oh man, I have to visit Quebec now. That sounds like a wonderland.
You'll have to practice your French though.
Oh no.
Like a lot of them do speak English, but like French is the sort of go-to language, and some of them just don't speak English at all. So I had to bring out my rusty old French skills from secondary school. Je m'appelle Malika.
I had the exact same thing. I was over in Lyon recently, but they do speak French a lot more in Lyon, funny enough. Because in France. But yeah, it was a case of like, they really don't like speaking English if you're not in like the touristy areas. And we were staying with a friend, so we were out kind of in the suburban kind of area where you speak French or you don't speak. we went to like a crystal shop because that's where Ella wants to go, and it was one in like the outside the touristy area, and we were speaking to her in English, the shopkeeper, and she knew we couldn't speak French, but she continued to speak French anyway.
I love that level of pettiness. That's beautiful.
So was it just like to spite you, or was it just
I think that's just the way it is over there. I think they really go for the French language, and they're not keen to speak English if they don't have to. And she felt like she didn't have to, so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, Quebec has like a thing against English because they don't like that we try to, take control of their country. So like, no, we are French and we will stay French. The rest of Canada can be English. We'll take our French from our cold dead hands.
Well, yeah, aside from my trip to Lyon, which was very nice, I've basically been living in the shadow of my wife for the last couple of weeks. She's been having a much more busy life than I have. I've been back at the house just playing games flat out. She got a job. I've told Malik already, but she got a job at PlayOn. So she is now the UX researcher for games like Dead Island and Dying Light and loads of other ones like that. So she's big time in me.
I said, you weren't here, JT. I said to Cal, he's like the trophy husband now.
Hey, that sounds like a fine existence too.
He gets to sit back, play the games. She is jet setting around.
And I can just ride in her coattails. I'm quite happy to do that. What about you, JT? Anything exciting?
Things have been fine. Just a lot more stuff with D-tubing and like doing collabs with people and
Sweet.
Having a lot of fun with that. I got married to someone on stream apparently as a joke, and I became her VTuber husband, and like she gave a role to me in her Discord server. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll roll with this.
Pretty serious.
It was all a joke. We both established like, oh, it's not serious, but I was like, oh, it's very cute and fun.
That's adorable.
The next step is going on to Facebook and saying in a relationship. That's the next step.
Oh no.
Remember when they used to have that it's complicated status option? Like, why would anyone put that publicly?
Yeah, just air out all of your grievances. Just like, it's complicated. Come message me. I'll tell you all about it.
Exactly. DM me, babes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, things have been very fun. I've been having a really good time, and I should be caught up in just a minute. I was a little behind on some articles, so I'm so happy to just be like back to it. I'm like, yes, finally.
Oh, the status quo is finally hit.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah, if we're done regaling all of our tales, we're going to jump into our first section, which is indie games that we've been playing over the last few weeks, or it will be over a month at this point, Malika. So
Don't blame me, okay? It's my fault, but I don't want to be blamed anyway.
yeah, well, it's given me some time to play. Ultimately, too many games for me to mention in this podcast without it being like nauseating for people to listen to. So I'm going to go last. Just I'm going to let you guys go. So whoever wants to jump in.
I mean, I'll jump in first because mine is depressingly short and I did not have access to a console in Canada. So before I left, I was playing this sort of survival arcade game called Steel Defier. It's one of the Ratalaika Games titles, and I just did it for a review. It was surprisingly good, actually. I find that the Ratalaika ones can be very hit and miss, but I just do them because they're easy and short and so easy to get achievements. This one was crazy short. It was like half an hour, and that's including the time pausing to take notes. But it was actually a lot of fun. So basically the way it works is you go into, well, you're trying to escape this facility and you've got to dodge all the security traps. So you go through to each room and you've got to collect all these key cards that will spawn one at a time. But whilst doing so, you've got to dodge all the traps. And it starts out relatively easy, but the more you go on, there's more and more traps in the room and it can get really chaotic. Like your reflexes have to be on point. So I actually had quite a lot of fun. Like it's not an amazing, what a unique concept, blow your minds, game of the year kind of game. But it is, just got some time to kill, play it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it because I don't really tend to enjoy arcade games too much, but I liked that I didn't have to think. I just switched my brain off and pow, pow, pow for a few seconds at a time, collect all the upgrades, and there was also a survival mode so I could try and get the high score. So yeah, that was a really simple, decent game. I liked it.
Nice.
Sounds cool. I'm kind of into the arcade thing, like with the likes of Rollerdrome and Neon White, and those ones that kind of just feel like you can jump in and play and then set it down as soon as you feel like setting it down. I like that.
Exactly. That's the thing. I like not being like locked into the game, and it's one of those games as well that if I ever fancy playing it again, I could just jump straight back into the survival mode because there's no real plot to follow. There's no complex gameplay. It's literally just don't get hit essentially. So it's really simple to do. And there was a fun range of traps as well. Like there was lots of different ones. And the thing I really liked, because I find in some like survival arcade game type things, they will spawn an enemy on you and you will die, and I hate that. Whereas in this one, before the trap spawned, there would be a brief second where it would flash on screen so that if you were stood where it was going to spawn, you could move out of the way. And I really appreciated it doing that because I encountered so many games that don't and will just kill you on spawn, and that makes me so angry because there's nothing I can do about it. I don't mind losing. If I'm losing and it's not my fault, that makes me mad, big mad.
See, that's how you know it's not a real arcade game, because they definitely would make that a thing to make you spend your coins. Is that your disappointingly short list, or have you got more?
No, that was just the first one. I was just letting you guys sit with the amazing, what a unique game I played. And then today, you're gonna love this one, Cal. Can you guess what I played today?
Yeah, I can, but tell me anyway.
The KO DLC, bend the rules with Roo, ROO, like a kangaroo. Such a clever, funny name. It's so difficult. I was getting real mad. The base game isn't too bad, but these levels are just way too challenging. I've only managed to do 2 of the levels. I mean, I only played for a couple of hours, but still, I wasn't, because platforming is what I'm supposed to be good at. I don't like when I'm not good at platforming, because it's like, this is my thing. This is my jam. I'm a platformer girl. And I was dying, and it was my fault most of the time. That's another thing. I think they've patched it. It's a lot less glitchy than it used to be. I was like, hold up. I paused it and I came back and the music's still playing. Hang on, I haven't got stuck behind any random buildings. What's going on here? Even the enemies are like, they die when you kill them. They don't just stay on screen for a while. It's been fantastic. It's very much improved the glitches. It's like basically none now.
Well, do you know what? I've been looking for another easy platinum to go and get, so maybe I'll give it another chance.
I think you should. It's really cool.
Yeah, I saw the game came out free on Epic Store, and for like all this time you guys have been talking about it, I saw Callum stream it a while ago. I thought this was just like this niche game that's like it'll have some appeal and then it'll disappear, and then it came out on Epic, and I was like, oh, this is gonna like trigger some people.
It's quite popular because I went to see the trailer for the DLC just to figure out how to like access it and stuff. And like it had like 100 and something thousand views already, and I was like, it only came out last week, so it's pretty popular. And all the comments were saying, "Wow, this looks amazing." So Cal, seems like you're the hater, and the normal people love the game.
That's okay. That's been the case so many times in my career, so don't worry. I'm quite comfortable with that. But like, at the same time, they've made like 2-3 DLCs for it now. They've made like 2-3 DLCs for it now, so clearly someone likes it.
Yeah. They've had the Oh Well DLC, they've had the Bend the Rules DLC, and they've had some like not exactly DLC, but like add-ons like the ukulele skin pack and stuff. It's all going down.
People are stupid, man, but that's okay.
Oof, rough. And then, yeah, the final game I played a little bit of today as well, whilst I was waiting for the KO DLC to download, it's called Death or Treat. I think it was released pretty recently. And you're nodding, Cal. You've heard of it. Have you played it?
I reviewed it. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay. Well, I've only just started it, so make sure there's not too many spoilers. But so far I'm enjoying it. It's like you collect candies, and I like collecting things, and you go through and you gotta like upgrade the town, and you're a ghost, and you're fighting like pumpkin-headed enemies and bats and all sorts. And every time you die, you go back to the world. It's pretty standard for its genre, but I like the graphics. I like the cartoony style. I like that I'm a ghost, and I like that I collect candy. And like I've said before, give me something to collect, I'm happy. As long as I can collect things, I'm there. What are your thoughts on it, Cal?
Well, I reviewed it at a 4.5. I really disliked it.
Really?
Really, really disliked it. And
I'm only like an hour in, so maybe it gets bad.
It's just, as a roguelike, which it's trying to be, it's a really poor roguelike. It's not fun to actually progress through the game. The combat's okay. It's not fantastic, but it's fine. The collection side of things, like, it's all quite cathartic enough. But the thing about it is, as a roguelike, you kind of have to procedurally generate your worlds, or it's going to get stealed very quickly. The way that they've set up their worlds is you have like your 4 different portals you have to get through to the end, and they maybe have a pool of maybe 6-7 different levels for each world, and you keep going through the same ones.
Yeah, I have noticed that already, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that is the case.
I was hoping that maybe that was just a first level thing, so it's happening the whole way through the game.
Yeah, it's happening the whole way through the game.
That's going to annoy me.
That can get pretty repetitive.
That's going to annoy me real quickly.
And then on top of that, the enemies that you get throughout the other levels, they're just reskin versions of what you've already fought before, largely.
I was enjoying it so much, but I just know this is going to annoy me so badly. This is all the kind of things I hate. I hate repetition.
In terms of the roguelike side of things, you don't get rewarded enough for the effort you put in. So you have to, the thing that annoyed me first of all was, before you can actually get your upgrades, you have to actually go through and unlock all the places you can get the upgrades first, which costs resources to do, which is pointless. Just give the shops already so that you can actually get going.
Because I figured, because I bought the health upgrade shop thinking, oh, I'll get my first health upgrade, but I don't. I spent all my money upgrading a shop, but I still got nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it would be okay if they gave you the first one, but they don't.
Yeah.
So
and then
it's just very grindy and long and like tedious at that point.
Incredibly so. Like I gave it more time than I probably should have, because I thought, no, I'm going to break through and it's going to be fine, and it never gets fine. In fact, it gets harder and harder to actually progress.
I was enjoying it, and now I know I'm going to hate it.
And even from a performance standpoint, it's not great. Whenever you collect a load of candies, the game chugs. Whenever you have loads of enemies on screen and you hit, it chugs. Maybe that's the PS5 version.
I haven't had that issue. What console are you playing on?
Yeah, so PS5 I've been playing all night. Got a little bit of that.
An Xbox Series X.
Perhaps that's perhaps that's what it is. But yeah, just in terms of everything it tries to do, aside from the visuals, which I think are actually pretty decent. It's kind of like
great. I really like the visuals.
I quite like those. But other than that, it's not hitting any of the marks of a roguelike at all.
That's so disappointing.
And I also noticed as well that there are some really lazy things they put out before. I think they'd done a day one patch. Well, they said it was.
Yeah, I heard that it was really bad. I'm glad I was on holiday when it was first released, because I've heard they had to do a couple of patches.
Yeah, so there was stuff like, do you know how the game's called Death or Treat, and it basically boils down to the fact that whenever you die, or whenever you get through your first section of the 4 levels, you get through the first one and it asks you Death or Treat, and it means, do you want to keep going? Or do you want to die now, get extra candies, and go again? And that is what they base the whole thing around. and the menu that comes up, the UI says, "Okay, here's your pick: response button or response button." Like they hadn't coded the game properly,
No
Oh
way.
no.
so you don't actually know what you're picking, and they base that on that's the name of the game.
That's so bad. How did they miss
Terrifying.
something like that?
Yeah, so I kind of like I would have gave it maybe a 5 or a 6, but then I ripped into it because I was like, that's just lazy.
Yeah, that is ridiculous that happened.
I would get so upset, see all my progress undone because of like the UI right there. And it's like, no, I wanted to continue.
But yeah, I was saying there as well, like random bits of code were lying out in the game as well. So whenever you were going to a portal, there would just be like a random thing over it that said 60. And I was like, 60 what? Did I pay 60
Crazy.
candies to go through this?
I'm glad I missed this part of it.
And there's certain weapons that don't actually do their jobs. Like if I like the chainsaw, so I went for that. And if you do an upward attack, it doesn't register at all, which makes
Really?
it useless to use. So
That's so annoying. I do
like,
upwards attacks like a lot.
I could rip through that game even more, but I'll leave it at that. It's just not very good.
Fair enough.
I don't give low reviews very often, and I've gave 2 really
you're
low
not
reviews.
that friendly with your reviews, to be fair. You are pretty harsh a lot of the time.
Yeah, but whenever I get to the end, I usually go, okay, well, I'll give it a 6 because it's fine. But I do like go in, but I always give a decent score.
I was gonna say you do not hold back when you don't like a game.
But yeah, I've done 2 recently, and I gave a 4 and a 4.5 respectively, and I don't usually do that, so bad luck at the minute. But yeah, sorry to ruin that for you.
Better I know now than get disappointed when I'm playing it. I can temper my expectations in advance.
Yeah, that tends to be the final end product of my review. Temper your expectations.
Temper your expectations.
Yeah, I always like going into everyone with pretty much very low expectations, and then I'm always like exceeded by those. And there's the occasional time where it's like it's even like worse than those expectations. And I was like, oh, what a shame.
They tend to
I go in with really high expectations if it looks cute.
That's dangerous.
All right.
I know, but I do it anyway.
That can hurt.
Sometimes it pays off. Like Bug Snacks met my expectations and then some.
But yeah, JT, what have you been playing? I know you've been playing one I want to hear about, Shadows of Doubt, so maybe start there.
Well, yeah, I can start off right there. And Shadows of Doubt is a detective roguelike procedurally generated world in this very like Blade Runner-y dystopian society, and it has a fantastic setting. It's really well built in terms of like how it looks and how it feels. And it's the biggest point is that with most detective games, once you go through it, you know who the killer is, you know how to find out the clues, so there's no real point to playing it over again for the most part, unless you want to like relive that feeling. But this game, it's all procedurally generated, so it's like, oh, I never know who the killer is. It could be anyone in this whole city. And I went into it with like really liking it because I love Blade Runner. I love that dystopian feel, and it's like you could hear advertisements in the city, and it felt like the city was like really, it was coming down on you with everything it had, and it was like, oh gosh. But unfortunately, the way to like find people, like the clues you were given were so minuscule. It was like, find this person with their hair color and their blood type. And it got to the point where it was so ridiculous what you were expected to do, and it was so freaking difficult. And
That's
unfortunately, like even if you turn down the difficulty, it didn't make the clues any easier. And there was another point is that it spent all this time into the world building. I got so invested, and there's a bit where like, if you do enough quests, you get enough social credit that you can escape to the fields, and everything's supposed to be okay. But unfortunately, I finished the game, and there was no ending. It just booted me to the title screen, and I'd spent, I think, like about 10 hours at this point. I just threw my hands, like, what's the point?
That's really frustrating that they didn't give you that reward at the end.
Like, I need something. Like, I love the world I was in, just walking down the streets and just, like, the weather, the sounds, and it was in that kind of alien future setting. So, like, there were cybernetic implants, and there was those old computers, and I wanted to like it, but it needed something more to make it, like, worthwhile in that sense.
Yeah.
Now, it is worth mentioning that the game is still in early access.
Yeah, and they could definitely add that. I think adding that would definitely help. But yeah, a lot of the quests, the way it was made, needs to be like overhauled for me to come back to again and like actually enjoy it.
Hopefully they'll pay attention to the feedback because it sounds like it has so much promise as a concept, but it's a shame it's lacking.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people really took to it. Like, it was trending on Steam quite high for a good while. So people like the concept at the very least.
I mean, I did have some good experiences. I mentioned Callum, but my favorite point is that I got a cybernetic implant that lets me survive any fall of the game, so I could just bail out of any window, like smash it with a wrench and jump out as I'm being pursued.
That's
and
really cool.
My favorite point was there's some of the missions you don't always find the murderer. You get to like arrest people or photograph them or humiliate them. And my favorite point was I tracked down a target. I threw a chicken sandwich in their face. I took a picture of that distraught office worker in their building, and then I beat the window down as they were chasing me, and I jumped out and I just walked away. I was like, that was pretty funny.
That's brilliant.
And I love
I mean,
that.
for that alone, that's worth playing.
That was a good experience. I like that. It's just everything else needs more story or some. It just needs to be a little bit easier for the detective stuff, or make it more accessible. So, yeah,
that's what early access is for.
And
Work out the kinks.
Yeah. Besides that, I've also played Pummel Party, which is like very violent Mario Party, and it's I played that with a few friends, and it was very fun. It's very like it's a lot of spite because you can like shoot your friends, you can smash them with a wrecking ball, and once they die, it's just like Mario Party where like you lose all of your coins or keys in this case, and it's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of like very full.
So it's a friendship ender.
Yes. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that, and there's one more. I played a little bit of Grounded, and I didn't get too far into it, but I love the feel of it, and this like it's Honey I Shrunk the Kids, the game, and it's strangely violent because like the way you can like fight your other party members or fight bugs, it's like, oh, this is.
I got jump scared by bugs so much.
Oh god, they were terrifying. But there is a slider for like arachnophobia where you can.
I had it on 0 and it's still scary.
But it's just like a little marshmallow guy.
Yeah,
with like
but
red eyes.
It's got eyes. You know what it's supposed to be. It's still scary.
Oh, but I do love that as a feature.
It's a really great game.
Yeah.
I just love that you can like build like these elaborate bases and everything. And I made like a trampoline tower. I miss it. I want to go back to play it now. Just talking about it's making me all nostalgic for it. Because I played it when it was first in early access, and like every update, we're like, oh, new stuff. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to play more of that. I just played that on stream on a whim with a friend, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. This is very, very well built, like visually, and
yeah, it's brilliant.
It's great.
It's really good for streaming as well. I streamed it when I played it as well.
Yeah, and also I mentioned I played Mr. Saito for a review, and that was a while ago. Like I talked about the last stream, and I loved that so much. It made me cry quite a bit, and I was like, oh, this was so touching. And I really wanted to give that like 9.5 out of 10, like a really high score. But I was like, oh, this is an RPG Maker game. I shouldn't like. There's some people this isn't going to appeal to, but it really appealed to me.
To be fair, I was the one that edited your review, and I very rarely go and read a review and go, okay, you've actually made me want to play that, because I kind of just make my own mind about these things. But I read yours and I was like, no, actually, I do want to go and play that.
Yes.
He's kind of won me around, but then it was like, it said it was on PlayStation, but it's actually not. So I was like, oh, I'll just have to wait, like I always have to.
It'll come. It was that good.
It seems like one of those will probably migrate over at some stage, so I'll get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go through mine, and it's going to be answers on a postcard.
Let's do a quick fire round.
All right.
It's a quick fire round, so I'm going to basically give them all a sentence. And if you want to pull me up on any after I'm done, you can do that. These are the 9 games that I have platinum since we last spoke. So I'm going to go through my games, answers in a postcard, just because I have to do that because there's so many of them. So
quick fire round,
exactly. So I'm going to basically give a sentence for each one of them, and after I'm done, you can pull me up on whatever one you thought was interesting, or maybe none of them. Maybe none of them are interesting.
You play boring games, Cal. Get at it.
Whatever happens, it's fine. So going for the first one, I got a 100%, not a platinum, because they don't give one for this game because
it's not fair.
I don't get the validation, but whatever. So. It's in Koja, which is basically like it was made by the guys from Day of the Tentacle, so it's kind of the same idea. So Day of the Tentacle, Grim Fandango, Children of Silent Time, those kind of point and click, detective-y sort of games.
Point and click.
Yeah, so it was kind of like that. It was fine. It was not great. It was okay, but it only took me like 3 hours, so fine.
That's not too bad.
I also played Tacoma, which is from the guys that made Gone Home. It's like a outer space one, kind of the same vibe. You walk through, you find out about these people, you get their story. I really, really liked it.
I was going to say a lot of people have been hyping that up because it came out on Game Pass a few weeks ago, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, you have to play it." I haven't, but other people have said you have to.
Oh yeah, it's quite an old game. I think it came out like maybe 1 or 2 years after Gone Home, so maybe like 2011, 2012, something like that. It's been around for a while, but very, very good. It still holds up today. And you can one thing I really like about it is you can play it with a director's commentary on, and you can have them like chat about all the things that they done, like how they coded this or how they put this in the game or what they thought about this. You'd never see that.
Yeah, that's such a unique idea, but I love that. I really like that.
It's like playing a game and then getting a podcast on the game and people through.
That's cool. Brilliant.
That takes me back to playing through Portal, and they had a bit where you could play the director's commentary, and it just felt so cute and just sweet of them to like say like, "Oh, this is what we were thinking right here."
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Tacoma, and I played it with the director's thing on, so I got to find out. Like, you don't want to go through all of it because it is a bit mind-numbing, but if you find something and you like the certain aspect that they're talking about, like, I want to hear what they have to say about that. So that was
you can toggle it on and off.
So you find them on the like throughout the map, and you can just go. I want to listen to that one.
I'm with you. I got you.
So yeah, there's that one, and then I played after our discussion and our big discussion last time. I played the Artful Escape again because I wanted to give it another chance.
And you thought this time, oh my god, I was so wrong last time. This is brilliant.
Do you know what? I liked it a bit more.
Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I definitely was very harsh on it last time. I still don't think it's a very good game.
Like, but it's a good experience.
Yeah. I'll go as far as that. I was maybe a little bit harsh on it before, but I still stand by the fact that it's not a good game, but it looks very nice.
And it sounds very nice.
It does also sound very nice. It is very cringy because it's like a rock opera and folk singers, and it's fine. I did it because there was a platinum looming, and I was about halfway through already, so there we go.
Nice.
Then I played Oberdeen, which I thought was staggeringly good.
Lighten up.
Like, I've been putting off for a while. I bought it, and I was like, I'll get around to it because I know I'm going to have to like really plug in for this one, and it's so good. So good.
I know, right? The way the story is told and that feeling of catharsis when you figure out like, oh, it's this person, and it made me feel like such a genius. And I was like,
yeah, it really hits that sweet spot of like, it gives you just enough where you can find out most of the stuff just through natural play, and then you have to go back and try and put the pieces together for all the other ones, and there's never a clear-cut answer for them. It's all situational, and you kind of have to do a bit of guesswork, but there's always like a solution to the guessing. If like, for example, like I'll give one of them away. Like, there's a set of Chinese people on the boat, and the way that you figure out how those people are kind of, they don't tell you their names or how they link to one another, but there's like bunks that have their like shipmate number, and you can tell by their shoes and various other bits and pieces like that. Like, it's very, very good. Lucas Pope really does fantastic games about boring bureaucratic things. So it's in the same vein as like Papers, Please that he done as well, where it's like a really boring concept that he just brings to life. So
yeah, it's really amazing what Lucas Pope does. Like turning these like really like boring bureaucratic games into these just like really fun and fantastic, memorable experiences. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that game, like, that lives in my head rent free. I love it.
It's a staggeringly good game. I was very pleased with that one. After that, played Tinykin, which was also very, very good.
Love me some Tinykin.
It's very rare that I play a platforming game that actually feels somewhat innovative, and that one actually was.
Really clever.
And like, initially I thought I was just going to play a game that was very like Pikmin, but the way that, like, it's not exactly like that. It has like some sort of qualities that are sort of like it, but nothing really. So you just use your little people to climb, or use your little people to break things and slide around on your little bar of soap because you're in a tiny world. It's very nice. I didn't really connect with the story too much, to be honest, but I loved the gameplay side of things.
I thought the story was quite cool. I liked the twist ending.
Yeah, like it was okay. Like, I wasn't paying lots of attention to it, but like I followed along with it and it was grand. But I was more into like the catharsis of actually playing.
For sure, the gameplay was definitely the standout.
Yeah, for sure. After that, I played the rest of Dredge. Well, Dredge probably came before all of that, but I played through Dredge and finished it and got the platinum for it. What I will say is I loved the first maybe 5 to 10 hours of Dredge, because like the Eldritch horror side of things was very, very good, and it kept you on your toes. Once you get about halfway through the game and you have your upgrades and everything feels quite easy, it kind of fades and it becomes like a war of attrition just to get your upgrades, to get the fish, to get things done. And there's a little twist at the end, but like you kind of see it coming. And
I hate when you see them coming.
It was okay. Like it was still a very, very good game, and I still think it's one of the standouts of the year so far. But it did fall off a little bit at the end, but not staggeringly so. Like it was still strong right to the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went back because I found out that they'd done a patch on Time on Frog Island, and I was sitting with like one trophy left to do on that, so I went back and I did that. So that was pretty.
You said that one wasn't too good though, right?
It was okay. It had some performance issues, and it was kind of hard to follow. The reason why I got through it as quickly as I did is because I had like a connection to the developer and was just asking them questions like, how does this work? But yeah, it was fine, and I was pissed off that I got to the end and like there was a couple of trophies that weren't kind of counting properly. Like it was to do with the amount of steps you've taken in the game and the amount of things you've thrown in the game, and I don't think they were counting, but now they are. So I went back and just threw stuff. That was it. I went in for like 5 minutes and sorted that one.
It's funny when you go, because I did that with the Beast of Maravilla Islands, that's what it was. So a couple of their achievements were glitched when it first came out. So I played the whole game on the first day, loved it, but then had to go back a few weeks later just to like do a couple of the achievements where the things weren't tracking. And it's so weird when you go back into this world that you spent so much time in just for like a few minutes to quickly get an achievement.
Yeah, so it was in and out, and I'll never play it again. But you know what? It was all right. Then I played Omno, which again, very nice game. I played that one before, but I hadn't done it on my PlayStation, so I went back and got the trophies for it. It was very nice. And I also got a platinum in the Tasmanian Tiger, which was also very good.
That's the one I need to play.
It is one that you will very, very much enjoy. I am telling you now, you will.
No, I 100% believe you.
But yeah, that's the answers on the postcard. But there are some other ones that I have been playing and I want to have a chat about. So the one I really want to chat about, and it's one that I probably should have mentioned last time, but I didn't actually know it was coming out as early as it was, Bramble the Mountain King.
Haven't even heard of that one.
I've heard about that, but I haven't touched it.
It's a game very similar to the likes of Little Nightmares. It came out with a demo. A lot of people were chatting about it because there's a section where you're like running away from like a pond witch is the best way to describe it, and it's very, very unsettling and horrible. But it's based on Grimm's fairy tales, and it takes that approach with a Little Nightmares kind of fixed cameras, and you're a little person in a big world, that sort of vibe. And it starts off like typical Grimm's fairy tale where everything's happy, lovely, mushrooms everywhere, foliage, rays of light, and it just gets darker and darker and more sinister, and to the point where it's like this is actually really dark. But yeah, it's actually fantastic, and I'm so surprised no one's really chatting about it. Like I kind of came out, there was a little bit of fanfare for it, and then it just kind of went away. I was like, oh,
it's a shame when good games don't get the recognition they deserve.
Yeah.
It was very disappointing because I thought to myself, like, this is the best, like, non-Little Nightmares version of Little Nightmares that I have seen in so long. Because a couple of people have tried to do it, and like they have not done it to any sort of standard.
It's very hard to replicate that.
Yeah, I mean, other than like Inside and like games like that, which are kind of similar but different. There's nothing really like it, and I would say Bramble the Mountain King does it just as well.
Probably worth me checking out then.
Yeah, the only thing that pissed me off about it was that there is like a no death run that you need to do for the platinum and an otherwise easy trophy list. So I won't be doing that.
Oh.
And
that is hard.
Is it that hard? Like you can't like quit out of it and just like right before you die, or?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You can't even save scum it either.
Oh.
Because in the trophy list it says you can't die and you can't reload your saves.
So you have to do it all in one go as well.
Yeah, so you basically have to be.
How long is the game?
Yeah,
it's about 4 or 5 hours.
What?
Yeah. That is harsh.
And the thing about it is, like, Little Nightmares had something very, very similar, but Little Nightmares was, I would say, a much more competently made game in terms of like the performance. There's certain aspects of Bramble the Mountain King where RNG plays a role, and you will just die because you die.
Oh no! Imagine going through like 4 hours of the game and need to die to RNG.
Yeah, no, it wasn't for me. Another one that I reviewed alongside Death or Treat, the other one was, this is the one I gave a 4, Velocity Noodle. I took it on because of the name more
That
than
is a very
anything else.
fun sounding name.
Basically, it's like a Celeste clone, where the concept is that you go and you deliver noodles in a cyberpunk city, and it's kind of like Super Meat Boy, Celeste, all of those. It's not very well made at
Well, the
all.
visual cute. I like that.
I mean, it's
It
paint
does
by
look quite basic.
it's like paint by number cyberpunk. I wasn't impressed by it, but it was okay. The it's way too hard. that was my main issue with it. It's just way too hard. Like
I feel like
I'm
sometimes they do that just for the wow factor of it. Like, oh, look how hard our game is. It's
no, but it's like I like that. I am very much one of those gluttons for punishment, as we know, and I'm a very competent platformer in the sense that like I've beaten Celeste in just over an hour. Like I'm very good at those
Wait,
games.
really? That's impressive.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so I think it was like an hour 20 something.
I rage quit Celeste. I didn't finish it. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. So I'm very good at those games. That game's too hard. Like it's
Wow.
I did not like it at all.
Oh.
But yeah, I gave that one a 4. It sucks. Leave it alone.
Fair enough. I will. I mean, if it's too hard even for you and you did Celeste in just over an hour, I am staying way clear.
Yeah.
So there's no mastery point where it's like, if I play this enough, I might be good enough for this, or is it just like
Well, there probably is, but it's just not worth the time and investment because you have to, like, you've got things to do. You're an adult. You've got responsibilities. You can't be doing that. But yeah, it's just not good enough. Like Celeste, even if it was a little bit harder, I would have been more invested because it had a great story and the soundtrack was so good. There's just one looping cyberpunk track that just goes on throughout the game. The visuals are a bit naff. The story is like very like Gen Z self-aware humor, but not in a fun way, more in an obnoxious way where it's lazy writing. It's just not for me. Another one I played, which was I thought this was a really interesting game, and I really struggled to get into it because it is so niche, but some people will really enjoy it. It's a game called Tin Can, and it's a survival game where you basically are the maintenance engineer on an escape pod, and you launch your escape pod, and you just have to live. You just have to survive, which means that you need to control your oxygen levels, which means you have to fix it whenever it breaks down in like a nebula thunderstorm, like whatever it happens to be. And you just have to maintain your pod until someone rescues you. So it's
that sounds quite boring.
So
it is what it is, but it's
a
very
one of
good.
Those games where you're saying it doesn't have to be fun because
it's kind of in that category.
I knew it.
So would that lead into horror?
I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it was inherently incredible, but it's a very good version of what it's trying to be. Okay. And it's very competently made, and some people will really get a kick out of it, but most people won't.
I'm pretty sure I'm in the won't because hearing it, I was like, yeah, that sounds boring.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, like, have you heard of Iron Lung? Like, it's a horror game where you're trapped in like a submarine in this really small enclosed space, and you just have to survive for as long as you can, like doing these tasks and going from point to point. And it just reminded me of that. I didn't know if it like would lean into any horror aspects for that.
And yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a horror game.
Okay.
It's almost too mechanical. Like what you have to do to run your ship is you need to learn all of the error codes, and you need to go through a manual and find out how all these things work. Like it's relentlessly
you have to go
realistic.
Through a manual.
It's relentlessly realistic,
and
some people will get a kick out of that. I'm telling you, but most people won't.
Some people will, but that just sounds so grindy.
Grindy's probably not the word, but it
going
is.
Through a manual, like you just back and forth through a manual trying to find the thing to do the thing. Where's the fun coming in, Cal?
Yeah, it never really came, but I had to respect it for what it was. Aside from that, I reviewed another game. Did flat out in the old reviews. I did one called Stray Blade, which I gave the title Dark Souls for Dummies because that's exactly what it is.
Brilliant.
It is just basically Dark Souls with all the edges dulled down, and it's like a very like child-friendly version of a Dark Souls game nearly. But what that does is it's almost like not to the same extent because Jedi Survivor came out recently, and it's a much more competent game. But what the problem it always had, that series, and what this one has is it lingers in this in between I want to be a really hard Dark Souls game and I want to be a fun to play hack and slasher, and it just sits in the middle and it's not comfortable for anybody.
That sucks.
Oh.
and the story's a bit dull. It's kind of like cookie cutter. It looks okay. It was fine. I definitely didn't review it as badly as the others, but it was okay. And then on the more positive side of things, I've been playing a couple of ones in my spare time. So I finally decided to get into Inscription. That's
Oh, how'd
a
you like
cool
it,
game.
Callum?
Oh, well, you forgot.
I
JT,
did. I
you're
was so excited to ask. I
excited.
was like, oh,
That's adorable. How did you like it? Oh my god.
Well, yeah, I've got to the point where I am through the first card section and I've beat the fella, and now I'm on to like a completely changed and it's became a
yes.
different type of game. And I've not lost interest, but I'm not enjoying it quite as much in that second bit because it's made me learn a whole different play style and added more cards in. I'm like, no, I liked it the way it was. I was quite happy playing the way it was, but it's still cool, and I like the way it's changed things up. So I will keep pushing through. But it's a very, very cool concept, I have to say.
Yeah, how'd you like the graphic horror and some of that stuff where it would pop up something and it would do a thing that I don't want to mention in this podcast, but you're like, oh God, what did this do to me? And I'm just so taken aback when those moments came up.
Well, you're talking to the wrong person because I've kind of got a cold, dead heart for those sorts of things. I have to play VR horror games a lot just to get them out the door. Like I'm desensitized to these things, but yeah, it is a little bit unsettling.
Okay.
It's one of those games that I'd have on the screen, and Ella would be sitting beside me reading a book and go, "Can you not?"
Oh,
so
yeah, but I agree that the story does like kind of slow down a little bit in that second half. It picks it up at the very end, but it is a little bit grindy. Actually, they released a mod with it that's free in the game if you complete the game, where they have a fully like roguelike version of that first half, and it's very fun. It's called Casey's Mod, and I played a lot of that. I really liked that part. So
I feel like I would really get a kick out of that because I loved the first half of the game. It was very, very fun, and then whenever it went to the top down, I was like, okay, I'll push on, but I'm definitely not enjoying it as much as I was.
Yeah. Also, there is a very big ARPG or ARG puzzle where like, there's a whole thing within the game that has this like Cold War plot that's happening within around this mysterious code that could end the world, and it's really impressive. But most people I don't think know about that. So.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to follow in some ways, but like it's very, very cool. It's different from anything I've ever played, and that's a compliment in most cases. And then the last one, I promise, I've been playing Norco, which is like
I saw the trailer and it looks so boring
because of all the words that you have to read
and the lack of color.
Well, yeah, Norco's, for anyone listening, is basically it's kind of like the closest thing probably like Road Warden or Citizen Sleeper or something like that, where you essentially go for a text-based game that tells a story and you are a part of that story and you just work your way through it. I get if you are not one that likes to do a lot of reading when you play games and you want the catharsis of like jumping or running or shiny things, as Malika always does.
I like reading things. It was just the whole look of it. It did not look fun. I'm looking at it. I don't like the art style. The art style is not fun or cute. If I'm going to have to read things, I want it to look cute.
Okay, yeah. It's a pretty bleak game, so it'd be weird if it was cute. But, but yeah, I'm quite enjoying that as well. So that's all the games I've been playing. Just a few.
Oh, I kind of like the art style, actually. It's very gross.
It is. It's a pretty bleak game, and it's kind of got like a depressing undertone.
That's what's like. It makes me feel depressed looking at it. That is exactly what it is. I don't want to feel depressed when I play games.
Yeah, well, that is the intention of the game, to be fair. But I get it. I do get it. Okay, so we're back, and we are doing our second section, which is games on our radar, indies on our radar, and we are going to be looking at the games that are coming out in the next month, maybe slightly further on, depending on what we've picked up. Anyone want to jump in and tell us what you are all excited about? What excited about?
I'm good to hop in with Darkest Dungeon 2 just came out like a few days ago, and I'm really excited to get into that because I really love the gothic horror premise of the first game, and it was very grindy. It was one of those like dungeon crawler games where it's very repetitive, But like I just got so invested in like the management part of that, and I've heard mostly good things about the second game. It's ditched its more kind of stationary feel, and like you're on a stagecoach this time. And I heard like some of the runs will last like 1 or 2 hours. So that sounds really interesting, and like it's taking the premise of the first game an entirely different way. And I really love the narrator, like going like the way they talk over the background. It adds that special something that makes it feel really good. So I don't know if either of you played the first one, but
I haven't played it, but I've heard it's really tough.
It is.
I also the thing I liked about it, because I don't have any point of reference to this game, but one thing I liked about it is I was kind of rolling through Steam the other day, and I was like, why is Darkest Dungeon free? And then I clicked on, the second one's coming out, and that's a good move from the developer to make the first one free. Like, you never really see that. That was a cool move.
I think it's so good for that. And I said there's this one mode in the first game where it's an ultra hard mode where like the enemies do more damage, and you have a set amount of weeks to complete the game. And I had this experience where I was playing on the hard mode, I was having a really tough time, and then I got to the very end on like the 96th or 97th week, and I was just staring like, if I fail this mission, like all of the progress I've made is just done. And also you can only like, have a certain amount of your heroes die. I was like, yeah, if I fail this, like my game is over. And like I think 12-15 hours of progress is just down the drain. And I won and I did it, but just like I feel like that's just so gutsy of a developer to like decide to do that. So I'm really excited to see.
Can you save scum at all?
No, every decision you make is permanent. So it's very cool.
I rely on save scumming so much in roleplays, it's embarrassing.
And it's all mostly RNG. Like you can tip the odds in your favor, but an enemy can still hit you if it has 5% chance to get you. So it's very cruel. Another game, Diluvian Winds. It's
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, no, I just saw it, and it's a very cute, kind of wholesome-y game where it's a settlement management in kind of a very rough world, and it seems very cute. There's also like a nautical end to it if you want to build on the ground and by the sea, and like you're trying to survive the elements. And I think just after Dredge, I just got really into nautical games for a bit, and also Callum mentioned Overdin, and there's a demo out for right now. I want to play a little bit of it, but it looked very cute, and it kind of put me in the mind of Spiritfarer with the visuals.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of looking at it right now. Yeah. Now, what I would ask is it like Spiritfarer, or is it more like, because it's kind of got the same setup as like Fallout Shelter and stuff like that as well? What one does it lean more towards?
I think it leans a little bit more in like the Fallout Shelter-y way, but it's because of the visuals. I was like, okay, I can forgive that a bit more.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to play through more of the demo, and like I think probably play it when it comes out. So yeah, I hope we can do a review on it too.
2 seconds, let's plug in my laptop.
Sure. Oh, but
Donald's gonna hate me.
Mm-hmm.
Donald's gonna be so upset having to do all these edits.
Sorry, hang on. My laptop's so stupid, it doesn't want to plug in. Okay, we're in. Okay, we're good.
All right. But
okay, cool. So, who wants to jump in with their other one? Me?
I mean,
Malika?
Yeah, I'll go. So technically it came out last week, but because I was on holiday, it's new to me, and I'm very excited to play Ravenlock, which is an action RPG by Coco Cucumber, and they made this game called Echo Generation, which I really enjoyed. So the visuals for Ravenlock look fantastic, which, as you know by me, means cute and colorful. So, but yeah, no, it looks really cool. It's had like mixed reviews, but most of the reviews are complaining it's too short, which is something that just doesn't bother me. Like 4 or 5 hours is fine by me. I think I would have liked it a bit longer, but I'm excited to get into it if it can be really good. Like with Echo Generation, I literally binged it for 9 hours straight, playing until 4 a.m. So if this is even half as good as that one, I'm really, really pumped. But yeah, it looks really cool. You just go through these like magical kingdoms, defeating enemies, collecting stuff. It's pretty generic, but I like that. It's the kind of game that I know I'm really going to enjoy. So yeah, I'm very hyped for it. It's on Game Pass. I've got it all downloaded, ready to play. So hopefully I can get into that this week. I'm very excited for that. And then this next one is going to make me sound like such a hypocrite. So, you know, a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about the oversaturation of farming games.
Yeah.
Well, there's this new game coming out called Everdream Valley.
I knew you'd say that.
It looks really pretty because, right, it's My problem with farming games is they're all the same. This one looks a lot less grindy. Like, instead of doing things one at a time, you can do things pretty much in bulk, which I like. And also, you can get different colors of animals, and I like that. So you can have all sorts of different colors within the animals, where like have like brown alpacas, white alpacas, pink alpacas, rather than just all alpacas. And I'm there for that. And you can like at nighttime, you can like inhabit the creatures and do exploration and stuff. It sounds like it's got a really cool premise, and I like that it's a bit different. It's not just about the farming. There's other stuff going on. So I'm excited to find out the sort of more magical, unique elements of it. And it looks well made. It doesn't look like they cut corners just to get a farming game out there. It looks like it is going to be fun. I love the graphics. I love the idea that it does look less grindy. And I like that you can mix and match the colors of the animals. So I'm excited for it.
I did see that one, and I thought to myself, you know what, Malik is going to bring that along, despite what we'd had a chat about.
You know me so well.
What I will say is, like, I did have a brief look at it, and what stood out from the rest, like, as you say, it does look a little bit different. I would still say it's going to be more.
Oh yeah, it's going to be like 90% the same as everything else, but there'll be enough in there
the one thing I said, like, it's got a behind the player third-person camera, which I thought was like, oh, well, that is a little bit different, because it feels more like almost action RPG like, but with farming simulator instead of like a top-down 2D pixel farm, like
exactly. You have
every
3D.
other one.
I like that.
And like it's been done to death, but at least they're trying something different.
So when you have like,
I knew that was coming.
Find the person is a little bit like Harvestella.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I haven't played Harvestella.
It's like Google. A kind of.
I saw the trailer for that on one of the Nintendo Switch things, I think.
It's one of the few things that Square Enix have brought out this year that was okay.
Like,
yeah, I think that's what happened. I think I saw Square Enix and I was like, no, I don't trust them anymore.
That's a good way to go.
If you know what Code Vein is, it's like a mixture between Code Vein, which is basically anime Dark Souls, and Stardew Valley. And I was like, oh, this seems like a kind of a strange mixture, but it looks like it works very well. So I think I'd like to try that.
Fair play.
But yeah, is it like that sense where you have the camera behind you, so it feels like that, or I guess what I'm asking is like,
it's kind of like Breath of the Wild camera, or one where it's just kind of like following behind you, that kind of way. Okay, which is just something different for a farming sim. It's a very small thing for me to bring up, but it's the one that I was like, oh, that's a bit different.
I also actually feel like the scale of people to animals is better than it is in a lot of farming games. I'm really clutching at straws. I am really clutching at straws.
Yeah. I thought I was trying to dig the game out, but there you go. You're really giving it a go.
Oh, it's got a decent scale of size going on.
Well, is that everything you're bringing along?
Honestly, I've got so much to catch up on my backlog from being on holiday. I haven't had time to look forward. I just get overwhelmed.
The reason why I ask is because there's a lot of like cutesy games I've got down here I want to speak about, and I was like, I'm just waiting for you to bring them along.
Are they coming out on Xbox though? Because there's a lot of cute games coming out for PC, but not Xbox. So that's a lot of my problem. It's like seeing guys, oh, that looks amazing. Oh, I can't play that.
Oh yeah, that's just commonplace for me. I just have to pretend that I'm going to. And sometimes I will. You never know. But the ones I'm going to bring along, the first one is a one called Bread and Fred, which I think that Malika will really
only.
Enjoy.
I'm so sad. It looked so fun.
I love that.
Yeah, it's basically a co-op game. It's two penguins, and you have to platform. It's kind of like, I would say it's somewhat like Getting Over It with Benick Foddy, like that shovel one. But you're basically attached by a rope, and you're the two penguins, and you have to platform your way up. And if one person falls, you both fall because you're attached to each other.
I'm so sad. If that ever gets a console release, I'm so over it. Because like on it, not over it. Opposite of over it. I'm there for it. But yeah, no, it looked so good. I was so excited. And I thought, oh no, PC only. Are you kidding me?
Well, does it look as mean as Getting Over It?
No, I don't think it's going to be as difficult as that.
Good.
It's the first thing that I thought of when I seen it, because you're like literally attached and you're trying to climb to a certain point. If one thing goes wrong, it all goes wrong. But yeah, that one looks really fun. Another one that I kind of had a look at and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I don't know how interesting or fun it's going to be, but there's one called No One Lives Under the Lighthouse, which is coming to PS5, so I'll actually get to play that one. It is in the style of like a PS1 demake, which if anyone does that, I love it.
Oh, yeah, this is out on the PC right now.
It'll be out in the PC as well. I don't know if it's out yet. It should be out in a few days.
Oh,
If not,
I mean, like I have a game called No One Lives Under the Lighthouse that I own that I bought like a year ago on Halloween.
Oh, so it must be out in PC already. It's coming
Yeah.
to consoles. All right. Okay. Well, I'm excited for it, even if you're not.
Oh, it's very good.
Yeah, it
Okay,
came out
cool.
April 2020.
There you go. Well, I'm excited for the come out regardless. It's coming to PS5, so I'll finally. This is my point. I get things much later than everyone else.
No,
just
I'm on the same boat. Xbox does the same thing. You get the console releases like 2 years after everyone else has already played it.
And well, I'll move on from that one very quickly. But I like the PS. I like the PS1 DMX style. If anyone does that, I love it. So I'm immediately into that. One that I was very surprised you didn't bring up, Malika, was one called Planet of Lana, because it's getting a day one Xbox Game Pass release. Planet of Lana.
If it's a day one Xbox Game Pass, have I missed it?
Yeah, it's getting an exclusive release as far as I know. I just want to make sure that I'm not talking rubbish.
Yeah, a day one. It wasn't on my.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
understand. I
this is
literally
gorgeous.
looked up games coming to Game Pass in May. It wasn't showing up. It must be
Yeah,
delayed on the Xbox website for some reason.
that one looks
It
very nice.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Because I remember seeing this one now that I've seen it. I remember seeing it like when it was first announced.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, sweet. Yeah.
So
I didn't know
that
that
is
was
coming
coming
this
this month.
month.
That's good. Because I remember seeing it when it was first announced, thinking, oh, that'll look good. And then, yeah, for some reason, when I looked at the games coming to Game Pass on in May, it wasn't showing. Ah, okay, I'm there for that.
That's
It kind of
gorgeous.
it seems like a very charming, much nicer
Yeah.
version of your like Limbos and your
Yeah,
Insides.
so it
and
seems
stuff
like it's
that.
been like really relaxing. I love games like that.
I mean, I see the bit with
That's
the
good.
monster like showing the edge too, and a couple of the like giant robots. And that fills me with a little dread for the person, their
But
little
it's
critter.
got green
But
grass. It's fine.
Literally, if you
I'm
just
sure.
turn the contrast and saturation up in a game, Malika will love it regardless. So.
It's so true. It's so true. I hate how predictable I am.
Well, there you go. And I think that like there's other ones I've written down, but like I'm not as excited for the rest of them. So there's one called Another Fisherman's Tale, which is a VR game, it kind of looks like a cutesy kind of VR puzzle game. I'll give that a go, see how it goes. Another one was After Us, which is kind of like an action RPG sort of one where you play as like the spirit of Gaia, and there's stuff like that going on. It looks okay as well, but again, don't want to give it too much time. And then Above Snakes also looks quite cool. It's kind of like a tile-based survival game where you kind of have to like adapt as each tile comes. And it's still like it's a resource management game. It's a base builder. It's kind of like taking all of the survival games, the traditional survival games, putting it into like a top-down command and conquer sort of way. So it looks pretty cool. And then there was one I just wanted to talk about because I'm so baffled that it's actually in existence. Like and I'm not giving it an endorsement at all. I just want to rag on it a little bit. Has anyone seen that Panorama is coming out and how it is? It's basically just Dorfromantic. It's the exact same thing.
The Panorama.
Yeah, so it's I think it's spelled Panorama as in panorama exactly.
Oh, is it apostrophe Arama?
That would be it. Yeah.
oh, it really
Maybe
is that game.
It is exactly Dorfromantic, like to a T. There's nothing different
that
about
is. I mean, I just looking at it, that is Dorfromantic.
I was trying to establish like
It's not even reskinned Dorfromantic.
No.
It's Dorfromantic.
It's got the same color palette. It's got the same tile patterns.
How is it getting away with this?
Yeah.
I've been asking myself this. I don't get it.
Like even the logo screen that's just Dorfromantic.
It is baffling to me. I cannot get my head around how they're getting away with this and not getting sued.
That's crazy. Maybe Dorfromantic, like they're just waiting until it's released and then they're gonna sue them once it's actually out.
I mean, yeah, they might as well make some money before they go and get their money.
Exactly.
Oh, but it's brutal.
That
I'm
is
like,
crazy. Like it's not even being subtle about it. It just everything, even down to the windmill on the art.
yeah, every single aspect of it. Like I was
That
thinking,
is
surely
crazy.
there's some sort of core mechanic that changes it or makes it a little bit different. And then I went and seen some like gameplay for it and some people talking about it pre-release, and they're like, "Oh, this is like an update from Dorfromantic, and they've really updated." And I'm like, "How?" And they didn't really like explain how. I was like, "No, they haven't. It's the exact same."
Maybe it's some kind of like money laundering scheme or something.
That's a big jump to make, but you know,
I like
I'm
that
on board.
assumption.
I like the drama of it. Let's say that's what it is.
That's what it is. They're paying the people to promote the game and say that it's better than Dorfromantik when it is just Dorfromantik, and really that money is for stuff that's not game related.
Yeah, it's a huge web of lies, and just by saying this, I am a target.
Down.
Oh no,
they're gonna come for me. But yeah, I couldn't sit idly by and not mention it because it's so
that is outrageous.
Yeah, that's not on my radar. But everything else.
That's the opposite.
But everything else, that was games.
It's on the radar of the lawyers for Dorfromantik.
Yes. Yeah, they definitely have that on their radar. Boom, and we're back in, and we're talking about the big discussion, our final section of the podcast. And today, our big discussion is on whether you should replay your indie games. Should you go back to them? Should you leave them alone? Who wants to have an argument with me?
I'm not sure which side you're on, but I'm hoping you're on the no side because I'm on the yes side. So basically, it's yes with a caveat. I think it very much depends on what you're looking to get out of the game. If the game is heavily story related, no, don't replay it. You will never recapture that magic of experiencing characters for the first time, of learning the plot, of getting that twist ending. But if it's for the gameplay, then I think you should, because I think there are certain games that you sometimes just feel in the mood for, and nothing is going to hit quite like it. Like, for example, I know I've mentioned this game 1,000 times in the podcast. It will happen forever. I will go back to Bug Snacks every year pretty much without fail. I just know it's going to happen because it's one of those games that is so fun to dive into for a short period of time and just remember everything that's going on with it. There's so much going on. The gameplay is fantastic. And yeah, the story's cool, but the story isn't the only thing there. So nothing will beat that first time playing for me because I had that story for the first time. But the game's not so heavily story dependent that with knowing the twist ending is going to ruin it for me. Another example is puzzle games. Never replay them. It will be boring because you know how to solve them. So, for example, I really enjoyed Escape Academy that came out last year. So fun having essentially 10 escape rooms I say for free because it was on Game Pass, for free in a game that I can just play and enjoy rather than spending 60 quid a pop or whatever to go to escape room in person. But once you've solved it, you solved it. That's it. You can't go back to it. So I think very much for anything puzzle related or that's story driven, it's not going to happen. Another caveat to that, though, is, for example, games like Spiritfarer, they are story-driven, but the element of the story that's so powerful for me is getting to spend the time with the characters, and I can spend the time with those same characters again, and it's not going to hit the same, but I'll still remember how I felt the first time, and I think everything that brings it together with the visuals, the audio, the fun game, like, it is pretty fun gameplay, and I like solving quests and exploring the new areas. I think it's very well developed in that sense. So even though I do know it's going to happen, and it's not going to hit the same as it did the first time, I think, yes, this is an example of a story game where, because you're spending so much time with the characters, it's different than if you're just, for example, like a text-based story, for example, where you're just reading and seeing what's going to happen. Like Coffee Talk, I really enjoyed Coffee Talk. I would never play it again because I know how it goes. I'm excited for Coffee Talk 2, which I still need to play. But it's one of those games where it's just not the same as hanging out on a boat and feeding them food and chatting with them and just getting really involved in the story. So yeah, my answer to should you play is yes, depending on what you're looking to gain from it. You need to go in with the understanding of you will never recapture that initial experience. So the game itself needs to be good enough as a standalone to basically not rely on that initial wow factor. It needs to be a decent, solid game for what it is and not just for what it represents, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I can jump in on my side, and to be honest, I don't necessarily have either side of the argument. Like, I'm not heavily one or the other. I think it is mainly down to a preference side of things and how you approach games, and everyone's different in that regard. So I can kind of see both sides of the coin. From my personal standpoint, I am more towards the no side, just because because of the way that I approach games. I can't really do that. For one, because of my job. Two, because I'm very achievement orientated. So once I get 100% of the game, there's no real cause for me to go back.
I was going to mention that on mine as well. It's like if you've got all the achievements, it's not like I like if it's one of those games where you don't get them all as you play through, you can always go back and get the achievements again. But yeah, once you've got the 100%, you miss out on that sense of that dopamine rush of yes, got another one. So yeah, it very much depends what you're looking to get out of the game.
Yeah, so like I'm mainly motivated by the trophy side of things. So when I play them through 100%, that to me is usually it. There are some very small exceptions that I will go back and play, and it tends to be one, they have extreme sentimental value for me, and it's not even that I want to play them because I want to play them. It's the level of comfort they bring. So the it's very rare that I do this. So it'll maybe be like it's basically one game. There's one game I do this for. I go back and I play the first Kingdom Hearts if I'm ever like in a position where I'm like I'm really sick or I just need something to take me out of it. It's my sick game basically. That's what I
really
do.
wanted to get into Kingdom Hearts, but it just didn't do it for me.
But yeah, like I don't even play that because it's a particularly good game. Because I prefer Kingdom Hearts 2. I think it's a much stronger game. But Kingdom Hearts 1 is that like extreme nostalgia hit, and there's a level of
all that
comfort to it.
Yeah.
And I love the soundtrack, and it just brings me back to a place. And I'm like, oh, that's lovely. But in general, I don't do that with practically any other game. The only other exception, aside from basically that one game, is games that never end. I am very happy to jump into sandbox games or something like that where I can just do something.
I'm like that with Slay the Spire.
Yeah, so Slay the Spire is a good example. Stardew Valley is a good example. Session Skate Sim, I play that all the time, and it's literally just me rolling around on a skateboard on the street. Like everything's done in the game. I've finished it, but it's just there's a certain catharsis to it where you can just play it for 10 minutes and like keep your hands busy. That's literally the only reason why I do it. But for the most part, I kind of sit on the side of you shouldn't go back and play them, especially if they're older games you've left for maybe 10 years and want to get that hit
it's
again.
Gonna be so hurtful.
It's gonna ruin it for you because you won't have noticed how bad the graphics were or how glitchy the gameplay was. It's competing against games 10 years better than it.
Yeah, it's the rose-tinted glasses thing, and for the most part, I believe that you should keep those on because it means that the game always lives in your head as 100%. Good as it was. And for the most part, if you go back to them, like there are the exceptions where like it holds up, but that happens so rarely.
It's like when I watched Jungle Book as an adult. I loved that movie as a kid so much. It was the best thing ever. And then I watched it as an adult. I was like, this pacing is ridiculous. What's going on here? So I would imagine it's the same thing. I deliberately do not play older games for that reason because I have so many amazingly special memories and I do not want to taint them.
Yeah, I will happily play a remaster. I will happily play a remaster.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I was so hyped with the Spyro. Actually, I was hyped with the Spyro Remaster Trilogy remaster, but the original Spyro games are one of the rare examples where it does hold up. So not indie, but still amazing. And that actually does bring me back to another point for one of the things you replaying possibility. If you're doing a speedrun or something, I think that's a good reason to replay it. So if there's a game you particularly like, but you've done everything in it, one way to make it more fun can be how fast can I beat it? So yeah, because I mentioned that from Spyro, because for me as a kid, I always wanted to try and beat the third game in 3 hours, and I can never quite do it. And I finally did it against an adult, and it felt so good. So I think, if you have an indie game that you really enjoy, speedrun it, try and beat your time, and that's a good way to replay it without feeling like, why am I doing this?
While I have the deepest respect for speedrunners and love watching speedruns, it's deeply at odds with how I engage with games.
I think it would very much depend on what the game is.
Yeah, like I mean that's kind of what I done with Celeste, but I done that in the space of maybe like a week after I'd finished it, and I just got, I'll play that again because I can do it quicker this time, and I done it really quickly.
I don't like to just like be one of those people who just sits and plays like the same game every single day. Like for me, it's like the occasional, can I beat my time from, I don't know, a few months ago kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I did with Hollow Knight. I played it really obsessively, and I just played over and over, and it got better and better. And I'm just like, okay, I need to stop. This is I'm spiraling here.
Sick of the game, exactly.
Yeah, I was also just going to say as well, like there are some games that you should never touch again, and it's not because they won't hold up, because they probably will, but there are games that are just, they're so good the first time that they'll never be as good the second time. And like the one that always comes back to me is Outer Wilds. Like the time that you play that and you gradually work things out and you understand how each biome works and how it all connects together, and then you get the solution, and then you realize that you could probably do it in about 15-20 minutes once you have all the pieces. You'll never get that again. Like, I know it's the same thing you said about puzzle games, but that is like Outer Wilds is kind of the epitome of this argument. That one's just so special the first time, and it'll never hit the same ever.
Yeah, no, there are definitely certain games where like you discover things as you go through that just make it so special that if you already know them going into it, it's just not going to hit anywhere close to the same.
Where do you stand, JT?
I want to say yes, but I feel like I should say no. Just I look at a lot of more story-based games like or like if you know what happens or what the story is, that kind of ruins what's going on. Like I want to point out Disco Elysium, where I love there's different ways you can replay the game. Like you can play as a smart detective or an out of control detective that solves his problems by just punching and yelling at everything. And I love that part of it. But it's also a detective game, and once you know like who the killer is and where all the clues are, there isn't really a point to that part of it as much. And yeah, there's so much excessive dialogue, but it'll take so much time to go through it. And again, your first impression of the game is just not going to be the same. I will say that games where like it's more focused around gameplay, like Hollow Knight, where you can have that level of mastery, like yes, it is worth it in the sense of like, okay, I can refine and hone the skill in this game, and I can get really good at it. And I feel like I'm still progressing, even though I've already played this game before. And obviously, yeah, Slay the Spire, like just coming back to that and playing, like just going through all of the ascensions in that over and over. And I can say like hundreds of hours to do it for all of the characters. But yeah, also there is games like Undertale that kind of mock you for like replaying it over and over. Like once you get the good ending, it's like you can only get the worst endings, the like where you murder everybody. And the game even brings up the point, it's like, yeah, it just becomes dialogue on a screen. Like you should really stop. This isn't good for you. And it's not, because then you can only get the a bad ending, a bad version of the good ending in that game. And I mean, I love that game just like it was very subversive, and just it really railed on you for that. But yeah, I would say no. In a sense, if it's gameplay, yes. If it's more just oriented around gameplay, that is worth it. But if it's story wise, like that first impression is never going to be like as good on a second playthrough, I think.
And I would also kind of bring up games specifically that play on like the opposite of that with regards to story, and they think that, oh, because we provide like 15 different endings that you can unlock, you should play this game 15 times. Like your Until Dawns and your Heavy Rains, awful. Genuinely the worst idea. Like you get your ending, that's your ending. If you want to see something really badly, you maybe play it twice. The fact that they say, oh, you have to play it 15 times if you want like your platinum trophy.
Just go to YouTube and watch the
that's what people do. That's what people end up doing. It's just,
that's too much.
I don't see how people get their kicks out of that. I just don't.
I don't either. It's weird to me.
Usually those games, like the changes are so minute that like maybe one character dies, but it doesn't change any of the rest of the story outside of like one or two scenes. And it's like, what's the point? Really?
I think a good way to sort of get around that is what Beacon Pines did, where you can go back to the changing moments and like sort of dodge in, but go like in and between them, rather than having to replay the entire thing. You just go back to the choice that was made and then make the new choice. Like Beacon Pines is another example of a fantastic game I absolutely loved and would never ever replay again, because the special part was discovering it as you go. Like, that was such a good game. I'm just remembering it. I love Beacon Pines. But yeah, I think that was a very clever way to show different ways of getting endings without it becoming repetitive, because you don't replay the whole game. You just replay that section that you need to get that ending.
Yeah,
I will say as well, just because I've done it very recently, I think it is actually quite a healthy thing if you hated a game to go back and try it again. If you loved it, don't touch it. No, because I went back and played
something I hate.
Well, maybe like you played it, you hated it, you bought it, you invested money into it, and you didn't get your money's worth out of it because you you maybe played an hour or two of it and went, maybe later, don't like it. Maybe some other time. Go and give it another try. Like I went and I finished The Artful Escape, and I didn't hate it as much as I hated it the first time. And I feel like that's a win. I didn't necessarily like it.
I just feel like my opinions change so rarely, because I remember I've attempted Spyro Enter the Dragonfly like 4 or 5 different times. Every time I tell myself, maybe I'm imagining how bad it was, and I'm not. It's terrible. It's so bad. And I just feel like I trust past me to make a good judgment on a game.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an example of a game that's like inherently broken. Like it's not good. It's not good because it's mechanically not sound. That's not
that is the, because that's what annoys me so much about that one. It's just like, it should be good, it's the mechanics that are so bad. So I guess that would depend on, like, if it was an indie game where it was bad for the mechanics, I wouldn't go again. But if it was another reason, I might give it a chance.
Yeah, I get that feeling. Oh, sorry.
Like how the kangaroo is no longer mechanically not sound. So
exactly, you should give it another try.
I really get that feeling where games where I'm having a really bad time with it, and then like I uninstall it out of spite, and then I wait a day or two, and then it's like simmering in my head. It's like, maybe if I just played it differently, I have to come back to it.
Nice.
And I think it's not an indie game, but like Death Stranding did that to me, where I got so frustrated with the game, and I thought about it, I was like, okay, maybe if I play it differently. And then I did. I was like, okay, this is a little bit better, but I was just so angry. Oh, also piggybacking off of the story choices bit that you were mentioning, where you could go back to a specific like path.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird comparison, but I really liked Doki Doki Literature Club for that from a long time ago. And like there was a bit where you could see where things were going to go back because there was a character that offs herself in the game. And
spoilers.
This is from so long
Could be
ago. I
anybody.
don't care. But you could see that branching moment, and I remember I like went down the moment. I made the right choice. I did the best I thought I could, even though you can't do anything. And I got to the point where it's like, oh, if I open this door, this person's probably gonna be dead. So I was like, okay, I'll like go back through it and like try it again. And like I made the worst choice, and they were more upset. I was like, oh, I should have just stuck that original. But being able to go back all the way to that and just so you don't have to go through like repetitive dialogue in those options again. I think that's a very like clever move that saves a lot of time and pain.
Definitely.
I just know how accessible that is for every game. Because
this is the thing. They tried, especially with like Until Dawn, with the butterfly effect thing, to say your choices really do matter, like that whole staple thing. But like to an extent, they sort of did, because you got a different outcome. There were a lot of games, mostly before that and some after, that say your choices matter, but then you go and make the other choice, and you're like, oh, but that it actually just it links up with the next dialogue again perfectly, and you're like, oh, so it doesn't matter. Great, good. Glad I went back and did that. No. It's just I'm not on board with it at all. Oh, and on the subject of those games that you delete and get frustrated with and come back to, I think this is why I don't play multiplayer games at all. So I feel like they're huge time sinks, and people that play them consistently to get better at them, fair play to you people. But it's something I needed to eradicate from my gaming library, like completely. I went and I looked to see how many hours of Rocket League I'd played. I played like 700 plus hours over the last like whatever.
Oh,
I was like, yeah. So that had to go. And down the years, FIFA was a bad one too. I got rid of it. So that's another reason why you shouldn't go back and replay, because if you get suckered into one of those, you're in.
You never play anything else ever.
Don't reinstall it. Don't do it.
Stardew Valley is basically that. So I've got that one. And one last reason why you should go back and play something is if someone wants to play it with you and it's a co-op mode. That is a fair reason.
That is very true.
Because whenever Stardew Valley became co-op and Ella said, oh, we need to start a farm together, I was like, yeah, I mean, I've played the game ad nauseum to completion several times, but let's go, let's do it again. And that's okay. I like that. But yeah, I think we've exhausted the topic, and we've said both yes and no. I think we've
sat, nice mix, a solid mix.
Yeah.
We've sat firmly on the fence, and we've got splinters for it. So that's cool. That's good. I'm glad we are a very decisive bunch.
Yeah, not as many arguments as last time.
Yeah, we were pretty aggressive.
Oh, that was fun last time.
Yeah, it was a much more mellow vibe.
Lots of gloves on.
But yeah, we'll call it a day there. So this has been the Indie Game Culture Podcast. If you want to find lots of our work, our articles, our reviews, our videos, our podcast, but you're already here, then you go to indiegameculture.com and you will find all of our fun works. We do lots of cool reviews and lots of cool guides. You will find basically anything you want on any indie game that is popping at the moment. And if you want to find more of Malika's work, you can head over to her website. What is its name, Malika?
www.screenhype.co.uk.
And if you want to go and see JT on Twitch, you can go to
IndieJT at twitch.com.
IndieJT. There you go. And I don't have any outside projects because I'm busy enough. All right, guys. So we will see you next time. We're out of here. Bye-bye.
Ciao for now.
See ya.